After Aegon and the subsequent unification of the Seven Kingdoms, the Starks became Wardens of the North rather than the Kings of Winter, swearing fealty to House Targaryen and the Iron Throne. Yet they remained supreme within their own domains in all but name. Though Torrhen Stark had given up the ancient crown of the Kings of Winter, his sons were less glad of the Targaryen rule, and some among them entertained talks of rebelling, whether Lord Torrhen consented or not. Whether anti-Targaryen feelings were made worse by Queen Rhaenys' effort to knit the new, single realm together with marriages between the great houses can be left to each person's opinion. Torrhen Stark's daughter was wed to the young and ill-fated Lord of the Vale. It was one of the many peace-binding marriages forged by Rhaenys, but there are letters preserved at the Citadel suggesting the Starks accepted these arrangements only after much protest, and that the bride's brothers refused to attend the wedding entirely. It could be seen that with this massive cultural divide between the North and the rest of the kingdoms could have been the cause. Much later, about 60 years, it was said that the Starks were bitter at Jaehaerys Targaryen and Queen Alysanne for having forced Lord Alaric Stark to carve away the new gift and give it to Night's Watch. This may be one reason why later Lord Eddard Stark sided with Corlys Velaryon and Princess Rhaenys at the Great Council of 101 AC, called in order to set out defined rules of succession to the Iron Throne. However, something to consider here is that although the Starks lost part of their greater realm with the creation of the new gift, it was really the lesser houses who owned the land who felt the biggest impact of this, and not the Starks themselves directly. Though in these days it is said that Lord Alaric Stark was glad to aid the Night's Watch with the gift, and took little convincing, the truth could be otherwise. Letters from Stark's brother to the Citadel asked the Maesters to provide proof of precedence against the forced donation of property. It made it plain that not all Starks were eager to do as King Jaehaerys had bid. It may be that Alaric's predecessors who had to implement the edict feared that under the control of Castle Black the new gift would inevitably decline, as the Night's Watch would always look northwards and never give much thoughts to their new tenants to the south. As it happens, that soon came to pass, and the new gift is now said to be largely unpopulated, thanks to the decline of the Watch and the toll taken by raiders from beyond the wall. However, a much more likely theory is that this reluctance perhaps comes more from the anger of the Stark bannermen more than the House Stark themselves. Lord Alaric Stark, the lord who agreed to the new gift, did make it clear during discussions with Jaehaerys the biggest issue would be his bannermen whose lands he'd be giving away. In the end, you can interpret the Stark attitude in two ways: reluctant lords who ruled the Targaryens and the power they held over the realm, or willing Wardens in the North who sought to build a better realm. Before you choose, it's important to remember that the two primary sources for this information, Fire and Blood and the World of Ice and Fire, present different takes with this subject. The attitude of the Starks and their bias, the bias of these writers, need to be taken into account as well. But what's ultimately important is that House Stark did become very loyal to the Targaryens, more so after the Dance of Dragons. The Starks were more overtly loyal to the Targaryens than previously. Lord Cregan Stark's son and heir fought beneath the Targaryen banner when the young dragon sought to conquer Dorne. Rickon Stark fought bravely, his deeds sometimes reported by King Daeron in his conquest of Dorne. Rickon's death outside of Sunspear in one of the final battles of the war was lamented in the north for years to come because of the trouble that dogged the reign of his half-brothers. But also, Lord Cregan's actions towards the end of the Dance of Dragons play a huge part in shaping Westeros in the years post the dance up until Roberts Rebbelion. The Starks did become loyal Wardens of the North, but still did act as de facto kings due to the massive cultural differences to the rest of the kingdoms and the scale of the realm they ruled. In the decades that followed, the North saw the Starks dealing with the rebellions of Skagos, a renewed onslaught of the Reaving Ironborn under Dagon Greyjoy, harking back to the Ironborn Reaving that had always plagued the Kings of Winter, and consistent wildling invasions, one big one led by Raymond Redbeard, King Beyond the Wall in 226 AC. In each of these interventions, Starks fought and Starks died, yet the house continued with its fortunes mostly unchanged, likely because of the firm resolve of most Lords of Winterfell Winterfell not to become embroiled in the intrigues of the Southern Court. When the Stark line was nearly obliterated by Mad King Aerys after the Rhaegar's abduction of Lyanna Stark, some misguided men lay blame at the feet of the late Lord Rickard, whose alliances by blood and friendship tied the great houses of Arryn, Tully and Stark together, and ensuring that they would act together in response to the Mad King's crimes. However, it is fair to suggest that Lord Rickard's southern ambitions were a contributing factor in how the war grew to the size it did. It's interesting that after the Starks became embroiled in southern politics with Roberts Rebbelion, their fortunes did in fact change for the worst, accumulating in the events we see in the main book series. So, thanks for watching this video. Now, there is something I want to address that I don't normally do in these lore videos. I try and make it much more about the lore than my own opinions. Much of the source for this came from the book A World of Ice and Fire, wherein it states that Lord Eddard Stark was forced to give up the gift and was unhappy to do so. But later in Fire and Blood, it states that Lord Alaric Stark was more than happy to give up the gift. So when writing this video, I did get very confused. It turns out that the canon answer comes from Fire and Blood, which was solely written by George R.R. Martin, and that the Lord Eddard from the World Book is an error, most likely as it was not solely written by George R.R. Martin. In later prints of this book, this was changed. I just wanted to add this at the end to help explain for anyone as confused as I was when I wrote this. Because I know there's probably some people out there who's only read, say, A World of Ice and Fire, who might not realise that there's an error in that book. Myself, I only noticed the error while editing this video and had to go back and change it quite a lot.